Hi, everyone. Welcome to By Design with Dr. Erika, a show focused on highlighting amazing women who are stepping out of the box, saying screw the expectations of society, and essentially living the life they were designed for. Today, I am joined by Stephanie Zakas. Did I say your name right, Stephanie?
Yep.
Your last name? Okay.
Yep.
Zakas?
Zakas.
Zakas, okay.
Yeah.
Sorry, Stephanie is an Ohio native whose path to success has been filled with many winding roads, beginning her business journey in Orlando, Florida, then transitioning to Brooklyn, New York,
Hey.
right? I lived in Jersey. Okay. And she ultimately landed in Iceland, where she is truly living the life of her dreams. Mm-hmm. As the owner of Zakas Photography, Steffi is a highly sought after elopement photographer, and her company is all about supporting couples who are eloping in the most epic ways. And I've seen some of the pictures, and they're amazing. And she's essentially focusing on centering this experience around their happiness and providing this intimate space for them to be themselves. And if that wasn't enough, great elopement adventures, now she's expanding her business as well to include Faucet Brave, which is the education and consulting piece of her company. And she even has a clothing line coming.
Hey.
Right? So, Steph, welcome to the show.
I'm so excited.
Now, what time is it there in Iceland right now? What time
it is 1 p.m.
Okay.
So only a few more hours of daylight.
Wait.
Start again early.
What time does it get dark there?
Right now it's pitch black by 8 p.m.
Okay.
So yeah, by the end of this month it'll be pitch black like 5.
Oh.
And then eventually by like 2.
So out of all the places on earth, how did you end up like picking Iceland?
Oh man. So it's kind of like a weird, like I was meant to be here kind of thing, which is so like hippy dippy crunchy, but that's fine. So like I always wanted to travel, right? I grew up in Ohio, totally landlocked. Like the most water I saw was like Lake Erie, which is not ideal. You can't even like see your toes in it. So I had only seen Lake Erie until I was like 20, I think, and I eventually saw the ocean. And but anyway, I always wanted to travel, and I knew I just wanted to like get out of Ohio, which is why I went to school in Florida and all that fun stuff. But anyway, I always just knew that I wanted to travel. I wanted to go to Europe, and I wanted to go to Iceland because of National Geographic. And I'm like a huge nature nerd. So all of the activity here and like glaciers, like the idea of seeing a glacier just like blew my mind. I just didn't even understand like what that was like, right? So and also Lord of the Rings is loosely based on Icelandic folklore. So I always was like, kind of feeling Iceland before it was like a travel destination. But anyway, so I was in Brooklyn and I had still never left the country. Like I think I drove up to Canada like once, but
that kind of counts.
I didn't get a passport stamp, so I was like, this doesn't count. So that's what I base it off of. And so anyway, I always wanted to go somewhere, and my best friend from growing up in Ohio was like, hey, we got like these tickets to Iceland, me and my sister, like you have to come with us, it'll be awesome. And I was just like, yes. So I booked the tickets, didn't think about it. It was in middle of February, and as we're like planning out accommodation, I realized I actually had a wedding to shoot back in Brooklyn at the same time, and I was like, oh no. So anyway, the reason why I'm telling you this is because I had to, instead of cancel my plans, I just like came by myself and just pushed everything. So because I got to come by myself, I like really got to just like feel it, and like I just like, fell in love with it. It was my first solo trip. It was my first time leaving America, and I was just like pulled to this land, and so since I'm a little hustler, as you can figure out by me having like 4 companies at this point.
Right.
I was like, okay, so I'm going to be in Iceland, and how can I make money while I'm there? So I contacted this food publication in Brooklyn and was like, yo, I'm going to be in Iceland. Do you want anything? I'm a writer and I'm a photographer. Like, I can do stories for you. And they were like, yeah, give us 2. And I was like, okay. So anyway, so my first trip out of the city was to one of these to document this place where they bake like bread and cakes underground in like the geothermal area.
Right.
It's really awesome. Zac Efron, that new show he
Yeah,
has
yeah.
out,
Mm-hmm.
that, he like opens the series going to this place
Oh,
actually. So you can
wow.
see it. It's delicious. But anyway, on my drive out, I just like felt this like peace. Like I'd never felt this like just whole like zen. I was just like all of the like stress from living in New York was just like out of
Mm.
me. I'd never seen that much open area before. Iceland doesn't have trees, so it was just like this open. Yeah, fun fact: we have like we can get into that later, but like there's no like actual trees because there's a lot of sheep that eat them. So anyway, I just had never seen like that much open space, and I just like went up this hill, and it was the middle of February, so like we just talked about, the light was like hardly anything. The sun stays right at the horizon line,
Uh-huh.
and so like from a photographer's point of view, it was just like that pink glow, beautiful, and I was just like. I went up this hill and it was just this like nothing with this like pink glow and all these mountains, and I was just like, this is it. Like I need to live here. Like I
Wow.
have to be here. And so since then I just worked at it, and I later that year I got a marketing job here from a tourism company. So they
Okay.
wanted me to take their marketing photos and all this stuff. And so I was here twice within the first year of being here. Then the next year I was here every like 3 months. And then the years up until I got my visa and got to move here full time, I was here every like 10 days to 2 weeks. And I was never in New York. And so, yeah, that's kind of like the long skinny of it. But I
Wow.
don't know, I just fell in love with it. I was like, I have to be here. So,
Wow. Sounds beautiful.
so pretty. It's so cool here.
Oh my gosh. Okay. So
You
now
have
you
to visit.
mentioned, what'd you say?
You have to visit.
I know, right? Well, I love traveling, so.
When COVID's over, come on
Right,
over.
right,
Take
right,
me to
right.
some places.
So now in that you mentioned that you are a hustler, and in
Yeah.
that story, I hear it. So has that always been your mentality, or how did you gain that?
Yeah, I just think I've always been a fighter, I guess. Like I always just get these like wild dreams, and then I'm like, how do I make it happen? And then I just like do whatever I have to make it happen. It's just always been how I am.
Hmm.
So I don't know. I'm just like that. And if someone tells me no, I'm like,
That's like the
absolutely.
gasoline, right?
Yeah,
Like,
right. If someone's like,
really?
you can't do that, I'm like,
Right.
why? Like that.
Yep, I get it. Yep. Can't do it. Yeah, yeah. Just because you
Yeah.
said I can't, I'm gonna do it. Um,
Right? Exactly. And I've worked in a lot of like male dominated industries, and then they're
mhm.
always like, oh, you're the girl. Why don't you just like plan for us? And like, and I'm like, no, I'm
Right,
gonna do this instead. Yeah.
right. So now when did you start? Because you say you have 4 businesses now.
Yeah.
When did you actually start your very first business?
So I started freelancing, I would say. So I did what like almost all other creatives do, where I graduated college.
Mhm.
I have a degree in film, like film production. So graduated college and was trying to like get into the film world, and then my just like bossness inside me, like I couldn't handle not being in control of like where my jobs are coming from, how I'm being hired, when I'm going to be hired. I just couldn't deal with all of that. So I decided to stop working in film, and I actually got a job at a coffee shop so I could like kind of figure out like what's
Okay.
going on, because like I don't like not knowing things, and like the film world is so like it's very dog eat dog, and I knew I
Mhm.
wanted to be my own boss. I didn't want someone telling me what to do, and I was like, this actually isn't for me, so I'm going to take a
Right.
step back. I'm going to get a job at a coffee shop where it's just super easy and I can figure out what I
Mhm.
need to do when I'm not working. So
How was it
uh,
taking that step back to that job? Like from a mental perspective, you went to school for
yeah,
this.
Yeah, it was a little scary because I went to the film school, which is so effing expensive. And I was like, well, I don't know like what I'm gonna do. And I love film. Like I love lighting. That's my specialty in film. I absolutely love it. Like you could throw me on a stage and like I will just set up all the lights and like geek out over it. And I love it. But I was like, okay, to be real with myself, when I'm like 60, do I like want to be hauling this like 5 wire everywhere and like setting up trusses and all this stuff? And like, I just didn't want to. So I was like, okay, well, this is scary, but I know I can do it. Like I always had faith in myself and I never had another option. Like failure was not an option. It was this. I was going to do it and that was that. So it wasn't too scary in a sense that I thought like, oh, well, maybe it won't work out. It was more like me buying myself my own time so I could kind of figure it out. So I did that and I made sure to work daytime hours so I could figure shit out. Oh, can I say that? I don't know. Can I say? Okay.
Fine. It's okay.
Okay. Figure stuff out at night. So it was like, it was more frustrating because I was like, oh, now I gotta like really figure it out. But because I did that, and I'd always loved photography, and I was like, okay, well, I love photography. That is something I can build myself. I don't have to worry about like somebody really hiring me necessarily. So I saved my tips, bought my first camera, and actually got my first film job or like photography job from a customer that went to the shop. So that's like kind of how that started. And so I just started freelancing, but I was a DBA. I wasn't like an LLC or anything like that.
What's a DVA?
So a DBA is like doing business as. So
Okay.
that in like business speak is when you are still operating off of your own social security number. There's no liability, like, padding in there like an LLC would be, or anything like that. So, yeah, you're like 1099 from
Right,
people.
right.
So yeah, so that's what I did. And then eventually years and years, it took me way too long, but years and years
Wait, what do you
after,
mean way too long? How long did it take you?
oh, it took me so long. So I bought my first camera in 2006
Uh-huh.
and I was just like freelancing. And then I moved to Brooklyn in 2012 and I didn't get my own like LLC full time. Like I didn't go full time until 2017. So I've only been full time a few years, but since doing that, like my first year full time, I hit over 100K, and I've just been like going since. So it, it was like an okay taking me a while, but it still took me a long time. I think.
So we're gonna get back to that 100K in a
Yeah.
second. But so about 11 years it sounded like from going from
Yeah,
getting your
because I did a
camera.
lot of like woo, woo,
Mm,
woo, and just like because like when I was in Orlando, since again I was just like trying to figure out like what can I do, what can I do, what can I do. I had 4 jobs at one point, and I was shooting for contracting for a few companies. So I contracted for Disney, I contracted for some other places,
mhm.
and I was a bartender, and I was working at Hard Rock Cafe. And I was a corporate trainer for them at the same time. I was doing all sorts of stuff, working at a coffee shop. Yeah, so I did a lot of things as I like built myself.
Okay. So were the 11 years, was it more because you were still trying to, like you say, figure out exactly what it was going to look like?
It was
Was
mostly
it?
kind of confidence building,
Mhm,
which is why I'm like, I so could have jumped a lot earlier than that and would have been
mhm.
fine. But like having those safety nets was just like comfort to me until I was just like, I can do it. But I ended up like moving to Brooklyn and then starting from like the ground up again, right? So like when I was in Orlando, I was working for Disney and I was like this like honestly, not to put it down, but I was like this is kind of like the best that I can probably get, like
Mm.
corporate wise photographer thing. And I still was like, I don't want a boss. I don't want to be doing this stuff. And my manager had to sit down with me and she was like, hey, so we love you. You're a great photographer. You're a great person, but you're too creative for us. So we need you to like back up your artistry a little bit and shoot like Disney style. And so I was like, middle fingers. I'm gonna go 10 days later, I was in Brooklyn, sleeping on a floor because I was like, I need to get my butt kicked. If I can move to like New York, like
Right.
that whole saying, like, I can make it
Make it there.
anywhere.
Yeah.
So I fucking did it. And then, so I think that's why it took me so long too, because when I moved to Brooklyn, like, rent is so expensive. Everything's expensive. I didn't know anybody. I knew one person, but they were moving. So like I was just like, I'm sleeping on a floor. I literally don't have a bed. I don't know what's going on. Yeah, it was such a mess. So it took me like a while to find my footing. And so I found my footing in weddings
Okay.
in Brooklyn and
Gotcha.
made my company, made my brand, really worked on like being my own brand versus a like freelancer contractor that I was mainly in Orlando. So I think that's why it took me so long.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so with that, because well, I have two questions.
Yeah.
I have to write myself a note. I'm going to forget the second one.
Same.
When you said you need to build your confidence, do you think, like, to your point, that sort of New York mentality, I have to make it or I won't eat, was that the main confidence builder, or was it something else that helped?
Well, I definitely think it was that. Like even though I was living in Florida, I was still like a Midwestern girl at heart, right? So I was still like too nice and just too like, yeah, like Brooklyn definitely like kicked my ass. Like I like learned to speak up for myself. I learned to ask for jobs like from people like, oh, I'm a photographer. I can do that for you,
Right.
like, and I just found all sorts of different ways. So like shooting stock images, shooting like branding for other like, coffee shops and stuff like that. And I was just like, any way I could make money by shooting, I did. And I interned at like huge studios and like all this stuff. And I used my lighting like prowess from my degree in working in film. And I was a stagehand for Hard Rock. So I set up like all the lights on the stages and stuff. So I did like a little bit of that in New York, and I did like a little bit of this and a little bit of that. And so I eventually just like, I grew my confidence, and I got to the point where I like, because I was also working at a coffee shop again in the mornings. I woke up at 3:45 every single morning and was off by 1, so I could shoot and edit and do like build a brand
Uh-huh.
until like the rest of the day. And I just got to this point where like I was coming back and forth from Iceland, and I was just like, I don't want to be here. I don't want to be in New York anymore, and I don't want to have a boss, and I can't stand that I have managers that have like less experience than me in coffee because I've been doing this for 10 years, and like I just had it. And so I wrote down in my planner, because I have like, oh, you can't see because it's in space.
Okay.
I have like planners that I live
Hey,
by.
is that a full focus?
Are you a full focus planner?
Oh,
Stop
girl.
it.
Hello.
I've never met anyone else that uses it that I am not suggesting it to. So you get it. Yes. So I wrote down in my little planner that like by the end of this year, I'm going to quit. And then I came here to Iceland, and I was a tour guide for a dance troupe in Brooklyn. They would come to so random. Life is so funny. So they would come into my coffee shop in the mornings. They were a dance troupe, and they were like, we're going to Iceland because we got this artist residency. We don't know how to drive in Iceland. We know nothing about Iceland. Like, can we pay you to come with us to drive us? And I was like, well, yeah. And so while we were out there, we got snowed into this little tiny fishing town. It's called Seyðisfjörður there, out on the east.
Okay.
We were snowed in for almost 2 weeks. And so I was like, well, what else am I going to do? There's a pizza shop, and there is a restaurant and a bar, and that is it. And we couldn't get out of the town. So I just sat down in the pizza shop every day and made my business plan
Oh.
and made like everything, worked on my website, like did all of it. And then when I got back, I just told my boss I quit. I was like, I'm not doing this till end of the year. Like, I'm done. And so I just walked off, cashed a check for a new wedding that I had just booked, opened my business accounts with that, and then that is it. I just hit a wall. I was like, no more. I'm good enough.
Yeah. I've been
Yeah.
there. I hit that wall.
Yeah.
I hit that wall.
Yeah. I hit it like fast. I'm like, that's
Yeah.
it. Yeah, no turning back once you hit that wall.
Yeah.
So,
Again, you start thinking about that 60-year-old, 70-year-old, 80-year-old, like,
I'm like, I gotta retire. I don't want to be carrying equipment. I want to be fishy. So,
that is funny. So now you talked about going from freelance
yeah.
to sort of your own brand.
Yeah.
From a mindset perspective, how is that different? Because some people may look at, well, freelance is my brand. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Like that's my company. How is that different?
totally. So I feel like it's different because when you're freelancing, you are still like working for other people, right? So if there's a job, say like a freelance job to, I don't even know like what the agency might be. Um, this is such a good question. How would you like really differentiate it? So like I feel like when you are freelancing and you're not really maybe niched perhaps. And when you have your own business, you've set up the LLC, you're not doing a DBA anymore, and you're really building like a brand, which is attracting the right people, saying the right thing, knowing who you're supposed to work for. Like it's such a different target and a different, I guess, just approach to it, where when, at least for me, when I was freelancing, and obviously I can't speak for every freelancer because maybe they only do headshots or
Right.
maybe, they only do something like that. But like, I was just taking whatever. So like if people were like, oh, I have this job where this company wants you to come in and shoot their interior or, something like that.
Mhm.
It felt more like a grab bag to me, where now when you have like a solid brand, a solid, like, this is what I do and who this is for, and you can really build your offers on that and build packages for that and like really do that. I feel
Mhm.
like that's more of a brand versus a freelance. And if you're freelancing and doing that, create an LLC, get your like branding really going, become the expert in this, and then you can charge more. So like I feel like that's like the main differences.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, cool. That
I don't
helps.
want the agency to like tell me to go here or here or something. It's
Right.
like
Right.
people come to me now, I guess.
Gotcha. So do you think was there any growing pain or challenge in making that transition for you from freelance to?
Oh, totally. It's scary, right? Like if you don't know and don't know like what the future holds, like it is a scary transition, right? But a lot of that scare is just like trusting yourself and like trusting that like you can do it and like, breaking any of those like internal narratives of like I have to lean on somebody else or I have to do XYZ when really you don't. Like you can
Mhm.
totally do it. So like, and it is also slow, right? Like you can't just go like I'm gonna be a brand, and then all of a sudden you're getting like all of these like specific jobs for whatever that brand is, saying now. Like you still have to find your footing. You still have to understand like who are you as a creative? What are your superpowers? What are you good at? So you can find those people that need those superpowers, which is what all of my branding work is about, is like you having these specific superpowers because you're your own unique, awesome person. But it takes a while for people to figure what are those, what do you offer, how are you different,
Right.
the next person. So understanding all of that, like that was the start of me trying to kind of create a brand. Is I was like, okay, I'm gonna do just weddings, I'm gonna do like, just kind of this. And then I hit another like phase 2 wall where I had like an awful wedding and I was just like, these aren't my people. Like this isn't, like the mom was punching me in the back and like all these like awful things. You should talk to wedding photographers and see what we deal with. It's awful
She
half the
was
time.
physically.
Punching me in the back with her knuckles to move me to where she wanted me to be on the dance
Oh.
floor. All sorts of stuff. We could have a whole conversation on like what wedding photographers deal with, but it was like this awful situation, and I came home and I was like, I'm quitting. Like I'm going back to coffee. I'm not doing this anymore. And I had this like this woo-saw moment, and I was like, wait, no, they're just not my people. How do I
Right.
find my people? And
Right.
that's kind of when I like really got into like the branding and like
Mhm.
understanding all of that and like the philosophies that I teach and all that stuff,
Right.
because that's when the magic happens, when you know all those things. And
Right.
now all of my clients are amazing. Like I've not had a client in like 3 years now that I have not loved, right?
Mhm.
And so I think that's another thing when it comes from like freelancing to having like a solid brand,
Right.
because like you are attracting the right people with a solid brand,
Right. Right. And that speaks to like, I think in my mind, just the phases of entrepreneurship, right? You start
Yeah.
off and you think you know, like
Oh
what
yeah.
you want and who you are. And the more you live in that space of entrepreneurship, like, okay, that's not it. Let me try
Yeah.
something else. Okay, well,
Yep.
maybe that's it. Maybe a little piece of this
Yep.
and that. So let's put that together. And then it's just a
Exactly.
process.
It's such a process.
You know?
Absolutely. I have a lot of my like consulting clients. I do a lot of like one-on-one consulting slash mentorship. And like I get a lot of people that are like fairly new. And
Mhm.
so they want those answers like right away. And they
Right.
want me to give them to, and I'm like, I can't actually. And so
But
like, yeah, I know. I'm like, I know, like I can tell you that you make people feel comfortable and I can tell you some of these other things, but like I don't know who you love to work for. Like I don't know, who you are best at serving. Because
right.
like entrepreneurship is service, right?
Right.
Like you're always in service to somebody and like in help to somebody. Like I always say you're selling a solution, right? You're not selling a problem. You're like in service. So I'm like, I don't know. And so like, some of these people that are in year like 1 to 3, they're like, well, I've done all these things and I'm like, great, but it's still, it's
Right.
going to take 2 more years before you're actually like
Wait,
in it.
wait a second. I'm
5
saying that
years,
year one thing. Wait a minute. Wait a
5
minute.
years. Watch, mark my words, message me in like 4 years from today, where you've grown and how like pinpointed you are in 5 years.
Okay.
Keep
Okay.
it, hang it.
Yes.
I would love
It's
to
in it.
see. Yeah, I would love to see.
Okay, cool. So, all right. That's interesting. That's
Yeah,
hard. It's a hard pill to swallow though,
it
because
is.
it's, I don't know, people just, you see all the wonderful success stories and you think it happens. I know it doesn't happen overnight.
Yeah, but you don't see all the other
Right.
stuff and the stuff that they're still doing, right? So
Right.
like all the stuff that maybe we post about or like the courses that I make or like, things like that. I'm still in the background like, what should I do next? And where, what do I want to do? And like who can I help? So I'm still like you're always just like with entrepreneurship. It's never ever a straight line ever.
That is funny. That is funny. Okay. And that speaks, I saw on your website, I love what you said, and this kind of speaks to that. You have to be like, when you're finding yourself and kind of making yourself unique or finding your superpower, I think you said like the tall poppy.
Yeah, tall poppy.
Yes. I love that because that, it's so clear what you're trying to say with that, and distinguish.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. And that's also a hard thing. Like that's something I'm still always dealing with. And like I have a business coach too. And like she's always like, be the tall poppy, be the tall poppy. And I'm like, but then people will see me.
Right.
But
That's what you want, right? Yeah, but I do want them to see me.
yeah, yeah. She always says, it's a duality. Like you can't have all the good without like some of the like uncomfortable. It's
Right,
impossible.
right,
So
right, right.
the higher you want to go, the taller you become, the more visible you become. So
Right. So you said something interesting there because you said you have a coach. So how do you, as a successful business woman, find a coach for
oh
yourself?
man. Okay. First off, I personally feel like everyone should have a business coach, like seriously, and like a real one, a good one.
Mhm.
And they just like push you and like see they've been where you are. They know what the next steps are. Like I've had a coach for past 2 years and like I will never not have one. It doesn't matter if I'm making those 7 figures yet or not. Like I will always have a business coach because part of like the coaching too, which is what I'm getting into now, is helping people like see those like inner roadblocks and like what
Mhm.
is really happening that like when you're in it you can't see it because
Right.
you're in it, when you're like having like an anxiety attack or something and you're like the world is falling apart but like someone
Mhm.
else is like no you're fine, try this instead, and you're
Right.
like oh yeah,
Oh,
that. Let's
okay.
reframe. Great.
Right.
So, yeah. So, anyway, I suggest if you're looking for a really good business coach, first ask your network, right? So, like, a good coach will have great recommendations because they've given people these like transformations that you can't like put a dollar sign on, right? Like, they're
Mhm.
just, it's the best. I love transformations. So, I found mine, this current one, from one of my friends, one of my colleagues.
Okay.
So we partner on some things, like workshops and things like that. And she's been with this coach for a while also, and she's like, you know what, I have someone for you that I think you guys would vibe well, because that's also a really big thing, right? You need
Yeah.
someone that like you vibe with, they kind of get you, and they like will give you that space that you need. So
Mm.
I contacted her while I was in leaving the last one that I had. That was not a good experience, but I'm glad I had it. So yeah, so that's how I found her, and that's how almost all of my clients find me, is from just recommendations or me being like somewhere in their network, and they like what I do and they want me to help them do what I
Mm-hmm.
do.
Okay.
So yeah,
Cool. Now that brings me to a question I was thinking about, right?
yeah,
Because going back to that 100K that you mentioned, I did not forget that.
yeah.
By the way. Okay. So that 100K, and then you starting your business, and it sounds like you didn't have a coach when you started your business.
No, I did not.
And
Which
from a
is
social media perspective, I think you said social media is not really your thing per se.
no, this is what I always also preach, because like if you look at my like photography social media, I have like 2,000 followers.
Right.
But I book like $20,000 packages.
So, okay.
I
No coach in the beginning.
no,
Social media, not your best friend.
no.
But you are booking people like at high ticket prices. How on earth are you making that happen? Like what's your secret sauce? Like how do we channel Steph
All
into
right,
our
you ready for this?
uh-oh.
Branding. But no, really. So like, so that transition. So when I was shooting weddings, any wedding, I was like, you having a wedding, I have a camera, right? And it was just, you could feel it inside. You felt a little like, these aren't my people. Like, this isn't the type of wedding I would ever have. Like, I'm just, ugh. And so anyway, so I went from that, and I just internally knew, like, back to that, like, being my own boss thing. I was just like, why am I working for people that, like, I'm not the best for them? They
Right.
probably should have somebody else. And, like, I don't want another client like them. So, how I initially started all this was in my gut. I was like, okay, I need to write down what I like and find these people, and like what, because I'm a weirdo, right? Like I've always been like just a little off the cuff. I've never followed like what is popular, what is trending.
Right.
I've never been like that. And so I was like, I need to find my other weirdos. Like I need to find the people that are having weddings and like breweries and just like fun things, because like these super fancy like rooftop Manhattan weddings
Uh-huh.
where they're spending like 200K on flowers, like that is not my people, right?
No,
I'm
that's a house in North Carolina. Wait a minute.
right. Like, I'm just, that's just not my people. And like I'm like highly tattooed, and I just was like, I walk in and like all their guests are like,
Ew.
exactly,
Gee.
exactly, yeah, and they're like, oh, and they don't trust you because God forbid I look like a rebel. So anyway, so I had this just like internal, and I was like, okay, well, I need to figure out what I want. So I took like my three, and this is what I teach in my course too. I took my like three favorite clients from that past year, and I
Mhm.
wrote down everything I could remember about their wedding, about them inquiring with me, about like our whole journey together, and then what they were like. So what were their likes, what were their dislikes, what do they like to do, and all that stuff. And so what it really boils down to is I basically made like a Venn diagram. It was like, where is it intersecting, like
Mhm.
what are their jobs and all these things. And what I was doing before I actually knew this was a thing and like this is like what you should be doing, is I was figuring out like what their buyer types were. I was figuring out like who my avatar was. I
Uh-huh.
was figuring out what my superpowers were and all this thing. So that is it. That's it. So
Mhm.
it's literally just me knowing what I'm really fucking effing good at, what I'm really good at, and then who needs that. And
Right.
then your marketing messaging, your brand communications, and then I've created all of my back end to serve them. So every email they get from me has a purpose. Like every touch point, everything, every guide, like all the things, I just take care of them.
Mhm.
And that's what they want, and that's what they're looking for. And so, and SEO. And because I know this and I know who they are, what they're looking for, where they're, you know, hanging out on the internet and stuff like that. I get all of my bookings except for like a few randoms from like Instagram and stuff, Pinterest I still get, but like 98% is just SEO and me knowing what keywords to use, what they're searching for, and then I'm there to answer their questions that they have in their head. I'm already resonating with them. I'm already getting them. And so by the time we get on the call and I'm like, tell me your desires, I secretly already know what they are.
Right.
I already know who they are and what they're looking for and the type of experience they're looking for. And then
Mm.
I'm like, oh, how convenient. I have set up my entire company that spoon feeds you all of this.
It's for
And then they're
you.
like, well, yeah, because, right? Because, like, one of the misconceptions I think that business owners do, especially creative business owners, is they think like, I call it stuffing. Like if they stuff their packages with things. So like in wedding photography world, people will be like, you get like an album and you get a prints and you get like all of these things and you get, when in reality, to charge these higher prices, all they want to know is that they'll be taken care of,
Right.
that they won't have to waste any time, that they can fully trust where their money is going, that they know that they are going to have a hand to be like holding them throughout this entire process.
Hmm.
And then when they get here, they just have this awesome experience that they want. And like that's how you book higher. And that's how you like don't need social media, because if you think about it, social media inquiries are probably not the most targeted, right? Because it's somebody that's just like, oh, I've seen this quote that you have, this is interesting, and like I will put money on it that like 90% of the people in Instagram and Facebook, they're like, hey, what are your prices, right? And
Right.
that's like, that's because they're not vetted. They haven't been through your website experience. They haven't
Mhm.
seen what your brand experience is, what your superpowers are, how you are going to help them, how you are good for them, how you understand their wants, their needs, their desires, their struggles that they're having right now up until meeting you, like all that stuff. And
Mhm.
so that's why like all of mine just comes from my website and
Wow.
me talking to them and being like, yes, I am solving your problem
Right.
here. And then they're like, great, here's my money, I trust you. And
Here's
I'm
my
like,
credit card.
yeah, and I'm like, thanks, awesome, I love you, let's have fun. So it's like, I think people overcomplicate it because they think like, okay, well, what can I be doing that's like different than this person and different than that person? And I see so and so in my industry has this like new thing coming out, and then oh shit, I need to do that. And then I see so and so is like paying to have all these followers on like Instagram, and I need that 10K. Otherwise, I'm not going to book and blah blah. I'm like, just do you, just do like what you're good at and serve it to the people that need it.
Right.
That is it.
Right.
It's not that complicated. It's just understanding what
Hmm.
those are, and
Right.
that's the hard part.
Right. And it's
Yeah.
also going back to the, that point of being out there and showing who you are, because to your point, you had to look at the clients that you had. So you need data. So in order to get data, you have to be out there.
Data is queen. All data, always.
Right.
Mhm.
Right. Because it's one thing to start your company saying, I think I want my avatar to be this, that, and the other. But until you actually start having those experiences and being
Exactly.
able to craft it down a little bit, you don't really know. Yeah.
Exactly. 100%. And like if you're brand new and you're trying to kind of figure this out, I always start with your superpowers. Like that's where it should always stem from anyway. So even if you aren't quite sure when you get to the avatar part of like, how old are they? And like all those other things that you kind of have to figure out as you go, like you can
Mhm.
at least start from like, what are you good at and what are you passionate about and what lights your fire
Right.
about your job, and then go from there and then refine and refine and refine. Like anybody that's taken my branding course, I always say, like I've told them, I'm like, please take this in 6 months again and do this again in a year, because you're going to see all of these questions I'm asking you are
Mhm.
going to change because you have more experience, right? So like when I started with elopements only, like I wasn't booking these giant packages. I
Mhm.
was still booking quite small comparatively, but that was because I was still trying to find my way. And like, yes, I was an elopement photographer and I had niched down from being a wedding photographer to an elopement photographer to an adventure elopement photographer in Iceland. Like I did that part, but then I hadn't niched down to an elopement photographer in Iceland for couples who XYZ.
Gotcha.
You know what I mean? So like that is where the magic is, when you figure out that for XYZ. Yeah.
That's like super duper niching. Yeah.
It is. That's, I call it hyper niching. Exactly.
Yeah.
And it's where the money is, because when you, and I mean, I love money. I'm not all about money, but I do talk about money a lot because money is freedom, right? And like the whole reason I became a business owner was so I could control my own money, and I could like
Mhm.
donate where I wanted. I can save where I want. I can have a retirement when I want it, like
Right.
money is power and money is energy. And, there's nothing bad about money. So if you
Right.
think that, get that out of your mind right now. But yeah, when you are like niching down like that, you can become the expert, as I call it. So because I have niched down as a, adventure elopement photographer in Iceland for XYZ, all of the resources I make, all of the content that I make, all of the anything is for that XYZ. And so
Mhm.
I'm the expert for them for adventure elopements in Iceland. And so that's where that secret sauce is, and where that money is because you're only talking to that one person. And then
Right.
it's that attract the flip. So when they get on my site and they see these things and they're like, oh, actually, I'm not looking for that. I want an arch with all of these flowers in front of a waterfall and 15
White
chairs
doves
and a
coming.
runner. Yeah. And I'm like, I don't do that. And I'll tell people straight up, like, that's not me.
Right.
Here's somebody that does that. I do a different kind of experience that feels like this. And
Hmm.
then they're like, oh yeah, no, we want something a little bit more. And I'm like, cool, here.
Yeah,
And that's
I love
cool.
that. That was, oh yeah, hyper
Yeah,
niche, guys. Hyper
yeah.
niching.
Hyper niche it.
Yes.
Yeah. It's
Oh.
easier for you too, because then you're not doing what we were just talking about, where it's like this grab bag where you see
Mhm.
like so and so in the industry that you look up to is doing this. So, oh, I should be doing that. Or, so and so is doing this. So, oh, I should make like a webinar series like that too. Like
Mhm.
your people might not give a shit about that webinar series,
Right.
so don't do it.
Right.
Yeah. So it's like easier to become the essentialist once
Right.
you've done this. And then your schedule is easier,
Right.
everything else is easier, and you're making more money, and it's great.
Oh my gosh. Okay. I love it. Okay. So
Yeah.
tell me about what's going on with you and your multiple businesses that you have right now.
Yeah, so I am currently doing my full 2021 planning. I'm like an organization like nerd. Like
Yeah. I
right? Okay.
full focus.
Oh yeah, we both do full focus, so you get it. So I have my sheet that I am like puzzle piecing all of the things, because once you get into owning, more than one business, especially when like the clients are not the same, right? Like it's
Mhm.
not like my consulting clients are not couples eloping.
Right.
Like it's
Right.
two totally different things. And then creating this clothing line and then other things I'm cooking up. It's like a big puzzle piece, right? And like
Uh-huh.
we're only one person. And so I mean, I have a team of, people, I like some VAs and stuff, but so right now I have quarter 4 figured out, and I'm just piecing everything together for 2021. So yeah, that's where I'm at. I have one course that I'm going to be creating soon. That's just like I call it an A to B course. It's just like a very simple, like, okay, let me back it up a little bit. So one of the parts of being a business owner that I really like is that you can diversify your income stream so easily. Like, I mean, it's still work, like, don't get me wrong there, but so I'm creating a underlying A to B course that is not for the people that I consult, nothing like that. I'm just
Okay.
gonna run ads to it, make that money. So I'm gonna be creating that course coming up. And then I have my elopement course that I'm gonna be doing open closing a few times next year. I have a membership area that I create content for, that I do a master class
For
once a month.
photographers?
It's for entrepreneurs, creative
Okay.
entrepreneurs. So
Okay.
right now, all but one are photographers in there, but I don't make it photography based at all. Some of
Okay.
the language I might say photography, but you can just put in whatever you're doing. But I'll do master classes on like SEO.
Oh.
The one this month is like how to build trust like within your clients, so you
Mm.
can like book hire and get the right people and all of that. So things like that. So I have that that I also do. So anyway, so my 2021 is just like sorting out all these things. I finally can get that clothing line back into production because COVID hit right when me and the designer were like about to make the prototype for the inaugural piece of clothing that I'm very excited about. And yeah, just trying to figure that out. COVID. I don't know.
How do you manage all that? Like that's
I
a lot.
so yeah, so it is a lot. So I am good at delegating. So I have my VA team. So I'm really big on if you are a creative person and you want to be a CEO or some kind of visionary of a company, you cannot be in the trenches, right? Because as a creative person, and this is something I deal with a lot with my clients too, my one-on-one clients, because they're all creatives. And as you're building this business and this machine, you are so in the trenches, right? Like you're writing every email, you're thinking of every blog to write, you're making every post on Facebook and Instagram and like all these places. You're doing all these things. And as a creative, that is not where your fire is, right? Like if that's where your fire was, you would be an admin for somebody at somebody else's company. But if you are a business owner, you are not becoming a business owner to be stuck in your emails, right? To be stuck in these like the building trenches, right? So I am huge on giving that shit away. Like find somebody, build it, write out your SOPs. You should see my Trello boards. They're absolutely insane. So I have Trello boards, mind maps, like all sorts of stuff where I've worked out every single thing. So I can just be like handing it off.
Right.
So somebody else does all these things. I have every process that I have in my photography company. I have 4 other people doing that stuff in my photography company. So now all I have to worry about making connections with my clients, because that is what I love to do. That is my superpower. And making sure everything is running smoothly. They're getting all the information that they need. And then the day of shooting and being their coordinator, right? So like that is my magic in my company. I am a photographer. I'm really good at it. That's what I love. No one else can do that. So if you get to the point where there's anything else in your company that somebody else can do, and it doesn't have to be you, give it away as fast as possible. Like think about it as the return. Like, yes, it'll cost you more, but what is the return on that? Like for your mindset, your energy, you actually having time off, you cannot burn out. I've been burnt out for the past like 10 years and I'm now like, no more, right? So like if it's not something that I can't do, just give it away. So my days consist of me writing like all of these like crazy, like I just write like all of these like I don't know if you can see it, like all of these notes of just brainstorming and brainstorming and brainstorming. So I take my calendar and I space it out per company. So like Mondays and Wednesdays is one of my companies. Tuesdays and Thursdays is another one of my companies. And then Friday is my grab bag. Like, what do I need to catch up on, right? So you have to like how do you say that?
Compartmentalize.
Compartmentalize.
Yes.
Yeah, your hats, right?
Yeah.
So I do that. I have my Google Calendar. It tells me like from this hour to this hour, creative genius, which is me thinking, how can I elevate my company? What are my next few steps? What do I want to do? Like, what makes me happy? Things like that. And then the rest of the days are just very spaced out. And I give myself grace also. You can't be a workhorse all the time.
Right.
Some days, as I'm sure you know, because you sound like you're a creative person too, you know how there's just some days where like you can't brainstorm, you can't get anything out of you. Like it's
yesterday.
Right? Like it happens. Yeah. And as creatives, we constantly have this like where we're like, oh, I'm so like I'm hooked in, like I'm totally like tapped into my future self and like I got all these ideas. And then some days where you're just like, I need to lay on the couch and watch like reality TV and eat snacks. And that's just how it is. And some days I will just be like, I cannot work today, but I have my team that is still plugging away at my emails, plugging away at things that I don't need to be doing. So
Oh,
that's how I do it. So I do that. I have all my Trello boards and I just plug away and I have my full focus. So I got my three big ones for the day and I just
yes.
plug at it and I give myself grace. If there's like these past 2 weeks, I've really done nothing but brainstorm. I've just sat and been like, okay, I got to get my quarter four figured out and I got to figure out my 2021 because I got big plans and they have
Right.
to fit. Otherwise, it's not going to happen. So
Yeah.
that's all I've been doing. So yeah.
You said so many things there, like the time to work on your business as opposed to working in your business. You need to make
Yes.
that time. And you just made me feel so much better because me still being in the infancy phases of my business, sometimes like I had a great weekend of just, oh my gosh, things were flowing. And what I
Mhm.
had yesterday, I'm like, maybe I'm not cut out for this because my
Right?
mind was not functioning right. And you have those thoughts,
That's
but it's
just because you're
part of
not in your creative genius zone. Yeah.
right.
So when I first started doing all this stuff, I would actually color code my calendar. So if I was at like in the trenches like shit, that would be an orange because I don't like the color orange. And then all of my creative genius stuff where I'm in my visionary, I'm feeling good, I'm like creating those purple. So I could see in my calendar if I have too much orange, I'm gonna not enjoy myself. And by come Friday, I'm gonna be like,
Yeah.
ugh. So
Yeah.
like try that out. Like try to like color coordinate a little
Mm,
bit so you can like look and see
right.
like, oh, I'm doing way too much in that orange. What can I give away and how can I find somebody? And just
Yeah.
like even if it's honestly 2 hours a week, like just like start it. And,
Delegating and automating. I love it.
oh, do it. Yes. Yes. Delegate and automate. Ooh, I need a shirt that says that. That is my life. Yes,
Yes.
that. I love it.
Oh my gosh. Okay. I'm so mad because we are running out of time and it's
Oh,
up.
oh.
I have so many more questions, but um any last thoughts before we start to wrap up, Steph? Anything you want to share with women that are trying to become entrepreneurs?
Yeah, so definitely, I guess my biggest thing and where my my coaching and consulting is really going right now is like really just helping people break those own inner rules that are not serving them so they can pivot to something that serves them. So like if you are sitting there thinking like even if you just started your business but you know there's things in your business that aren't serving you and you have this inner rule of like I'm supposed to be doing this, right? But it's not serving you. Like break it, find something else, like give that away, break and pivot. So like I guess that's my biggest thing is if you're listening to this and you're either new to business or don't have a business, like it's okay. You have the permission to just like sit down and break those rules. Like someone else gave you those rules, they're not your rules and find your own rules. And yeah, so I guess that would be my biggest
I
thing.
love it. Break some rules, people.
Yes,
Break some
yes,
rules.
break it.
Yes.
Your own thing.
Well, I'm going to break some rules now because
Yeah, I love it.
I do. I don't like just doing interview, just regular like business questions. I like to ask some random stuff. But I
Hmm.
wrap up all my shows with my Fab Four, which have
Okay.
nothing to do with business, but I like it. So,
Hey, hey, I love it.
so are you ready?
Okay. I think
First thing
so.
that comes to mind.
Ooh,
Okay. Well, this one is kind of, it's not fair. I don't know. If you had one superpower, because you're all about superpowers. So if you had one superpower, what would it be?
definitely to fly
Okay.
up and over and just like I just love the idea again. It's like breaking them society norms and getting up and over. I love the idea of flying. I've been obsessed since I was little. I have dreams about it. I just like would love to just like soar around and just like look at everyone and
Okay.
just like have my own thing. So flying, that would be
Okay.
my superhero
Superpower.
superpower.
Okay. I'll take
Yeah.
that. Okay. If you could have dinner with any three people, dead or alive, who
Oh
would it be?
wow.
Mm, mm, mm,
I should have these on. Oh, I should already know these. Let's see. Three people. Mm, I'm so bad at this.
mm.
Ooh, I would say, well, definitely Trent Reznor. I would love to just pick his brain because he's like the smartest person ever. Ooh, Donald Miller. I would love to just sit and chat with Donald Miller because he's also super awesome. And who would be my third? Hmm. Oh man, I suck. I don't know. I can't think of a third. Definitely be a powerful woman of sorts, but I don't know who.
Okay.
I'm sorry. I'm worst at these.
Okay. There are no rules except for to give an answer. So you gave an answer.
There is all the powerful women that I want to just soak in their energy. There's lots of them out there.
Okay. All right. If you had to pick a song to represent your life, what would it be?
Gosh. Oh man. Ooh, to represent my life. Ooh, my life now or I
Whatever.
feel like I've had many lives. Hmm. Mm. Oh man, I don't even know. I'm so bad at these. Uh,
Oh, this is too funny.
I'm honestly, I have no idea. I've not ever had to sit and think about this.
We're gonna let Steph slide on this one.
Thank you.
Okay. Okay.
I should have. Everyone should have these on the back burner. Like, what am I?
All right. I knew you were a rule break. I knew you were a rule breaker when I, talked to
Yeah.
you.
There we go.
Cool. So,
Sorry.
finish the following statements.
Mm.
I love.
Ooh, I love cheese.
You love what?
Cheese. I love
Cheese.
cheese.
Okay. I love cheese too. I
Eat
do.
cheese all the time. Yeah, I love
Monster.
cheese.
Blue cheese.
Yeah, all of it. Yeah,
Yeah.
cheese.
Okay.
I love cheese, making money, and helping people. I think those are my like
All
three.
right. And last one, I am
Ooh,
a boss.
I am a boss, not a lady boss, but I am a boss.
The boss.
No boss babe, I'm a boss, just boss.
Oh gosh. I love it. I love it. I love it. Steph, thanks so much for being here. It's been
Absolutely.
awesome.
Yes.
If people want to follow you, how can they follow you? How can they stay in touch with you and what's going on with everything?
Absolutely. So they can definitely follow me along on Instagram, which is like a baby. I don't hardly do anything with it. Boss It Brave or Iceland Adventure Weddings. Also, I have a awesome fun offer that everybody can join in on. So bossitbrave.com/break to pivot. So there is a guide to help everybody figure out those inner narratives that they have and give them a little bit of permission to break them and figure out where they want to pivot next. So I have a little guide to help everybody with that. And then I also will have a little web series that they can follow along on for that branding so they can start to understand how to brand for themselves, for their superpowers, for their avatar, and have the company that they absolutely love. So they can sign up right on there, get all the information, and follow me there.
Thank you. And do you have a podcast coming soon?
I want one. Yeah, that's in my 2021.
Okay.
So I want to have a podcast that has just you're definitely invited. That has like strong women doing their thing and breaking all the rules and that's my idea. So soon, 2021.
Okay, cool. And don't worry, guys. Like as always, I'll have all those little details about how to stay connected with Steph on the website, on the show notes. So I got you. So again, Steph, thank you.
This has been amazing. So fun.
Thank you for listening out there. If you missed any shows, be sure to head to the website, drerikabydesign.com. That's all we have for you guys. Bye.